All right, history students at Lewis Clark State College, Professor Eric Martin here, and let's talk about the setup for this week's readings, which mostly are coming out of chapter 16, but there's a couple coming out of chapter 17 and they're related, and I want to talk with you a little bit about them. So we're going to break chapter 16 up. The chapter itself is organized around Atlantic world encounters and really looking at the interactions between Europeans and Native Americans, and also between Europeans and Africans in the creation of the Atlantic world, which is something that is brand new as far as our historical timeline is concerned. And I want to break these two things up. So the next time I shoot one of these videos, I'll talk about the rest of the documents in chapter 16. But what I want you to, the documents for this round, you're looking at chapter 16, document number 1, that's Bernal Diaz. Document number 2, the broken spears. And then in chapter 17, you're looking at document number 1 by De las Casas, and number 2 by De Victoria. And really the focus is on chapter 16, documents 1, Diaz, and 2, broken spears. And what's going on in those two documents is they're describing the same event. They're describing an encounter between Cortez and his men and the Aztecs. And Diaz gives us one story from the Spanish point of view, and the broken spears gives us a different story from the Aztec point of view. So these are both primary sources. You're going to want to read them slowly and just kind of, they're going to take you a little bit to get through. And the issue for you is to figure out what happened. I want you to come to class with an idea of what happened. And in addition to that, which one of these stories do you think is more believable? And why? That's easy enough. That's also where the two documents from chapter 17 come in. Now, the De las Casas piece and the De Victoria piece is really looking at a different location, but they're describing Spanish interactions with Native Americans in the Caribbean. And I think that you can use what De las Casas and De Victoria, those two documents, which are also primary sources, to get a flavor of, okay, well, what do they say is happening around the rest of the Caribbean? And then based on what they say is going on in the Caribbean, then you can go back to the Diaz and the broken spears piece. It's like, okay, which one matches up the most with that? It's real simple this week. So be sure you take some notes. If there is a reading quiz over this stuff, you will always be allowed to use your notes. You should have at least half a page on any individual document. Don't forget to utilize the questions that they ask you to think about before it's all set up. And don't forget to use the questions on the inside of your front cover about how to approach your primary source. These are all primary sources. Use those questions. We'll talk about them in class. I'll see you then.